Good morning, hockey fans. This is Stephen Heisler with HeisHockey.com, the Victorious Hockey Company, and the Junior Hockey Discussion Group on Facebook. You are watching the world famous Junior Hockey Morning Show. We are on the World Sports Broadcasting Network, WSBN.TV, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Today's Tuesday, September 27th. I kind of told you guys that we were going to have a guest today, but we weren't going to identify the guest name because we didn't want to jinx it. But if you look there on the screen, you'll see a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed Eric Ballard. Good morning, Mr. Ballard.
Good morning, Stephen.
He is enjoying his fine life in the beautiful city of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, not Montana. If I were king, this is going to be a dirty show, all right? I had to bring this one back because we have issues. There we go, Coach. We have issues within our game. So if I were king, do not pay to play until safe billets are secured. Here we go again. Players having to glamp at a campground and go outside into the woods to urinate. Welcome to 2023-24 and another season of absolute insanity. Okay, for the last 15 years, maybe more, I've always served as one of the players' advocate in the game. Eric, I can't count the number of hockey guys that hate me for taking that stand. What do you think?
There's no question, buddy. We've known each other for a long time. You've always been a player's advocate. So I know this is really near and dear to you. I know this just because of, your position now in today's game. And whether coaches or owners or those types are upset with you, there's some issues out there because of the game. The landscape has changed dramatically, where some of these owners get into the game because they think there's money involved. And, the old adage is, how do you become a millionaire owning a junior team? You start with two.
or a billionaire.
Yeah, right. Like this isn't about making money. This is about player development and player advancement, right? It's about the experience and the journey. And some of these owners, they look at this as a financial opportunity, and it's unfortunate because these players become part of, just some of that carnage.
If I were the king of hockey, pay-to-play prospects would have their safe billet secured before the first payment is ever made. Eric, how unpopular would such a stand be with operators?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it'd be pretty unpopular because I think that the one thing that we always struggle with is always good billet families, and not only good billet families, but just having enough billet families. But I think that if operators, owners, GMs, took some of this serious, that would be a really big part of their makeup of an organization. Billet families are like hockey pucks. You can't play without them.
Absolutely. Shady teams are famous for trying to front load their player agreements and contracts. They try to get a large percentage of the fees paid before the first puck is even dropped. This leaves families with limited options once it's time for the team to start living up to the end of the deal. Eric, we've seen it all. We've seen so many operators out there getting into the business, like you said, cutting corners. And it's amazing. Once they get all their money, the motivation to do things right for the right reasons kind of goes away, doesn't it?
It does. And it's not all the operators. And one thing I want to make very clear, it's not everybody, right? It's just you have a few that kind of poison the bunch. I coach in North American League at one point, and I had an owner tell me that he chose to buy the lowest end of the sticks just so players would get upset
Go buy their own.
and buy their own. So he would save $25,000 in the stick budget. So it exists. It exists at every level. So I think that as you bring this type of stuff up, there are shady operators. There's no question, and it comes down to the almighty dollar. If you're in it for the players, you're in it for the right reasons. You need to make sure that you're not in a position where breaking even or losing money. It needs to be part of your business operations and your business goal.
When I started hicehockey.com and I got away from juniorhockey.com, the idea was to work for the players and their families and not for the teams and operators. With juniorhockey.com, I was kind of tied to the leagues. Now I'm free from those people. The reality is that families are also now in control of the cash flow. When it comes to pay to play youth in junior hockey. So demand that you give what you are paying for. And that includes safe and secure bill situations. Eric, even the latest player agreements promise almost nothing except for the parents to pay. The least these clubs can do is make sure housing's done and that part of the game is in place before they take any money. And it shouldn't be that hard of a thing to do. If we tie money to the billets, it's amazing how much more seriously they'll take billing.
Well, I think expectations are as such, right? It doesn't matter if it's a hockey team or, better yet, how about your mechanic? How about you bring your car in to have it fixed and you pay X amount of dollars to do whatever you need to do? You expect that car to come back out fixed and completely taken care of. So I think a lot of times we, in the business, expectations have to be set, and you have to meet those expectations. You have to meet the criteria you actually bill for. And the pay to play model has changed dramatically over the last decade, right? Like, I remember when I had a junior B team, we charged $1,000 per player back in 1999 and 2000. I mean, $1,000 per player, which didn't even cover a fifth of the cost that it took to run that organization. And we relied on sponsorships, we relied on tickets or beer sales or donations, whatever, didn't matter. So if you're paying for something today, then you should be in a position as a parent to understand that dollar that you spend goes to housing your player, making sure your player has a safe environment, bill it on the ice, off the ice, coaching, on the road, whatever it is. So I think it's extremely important that the expectations are met by the ownerships.
I'm going to go off script here a little bit. So I noticed last year there was a North American Hockey League team, Minnesota Wilderness, that had kids' parents in our group begging for billets in Minnesota. So you were in that same market, I believe, right? At one time with the Yellow Jackets or close to it.
So we were about 75 miles away. Yeah.
How does a team that is well established as the Wilderness in that market for so many years since the SIJHL days have a problem with billets after all this time? If it was a brand new team, maybe I can see it, but not a team that's been around at least 10 years, right? Minimum 10 years. How does that happen?
That's a great question. It might be a little bit loaded. When Corey Millen was coaching there, you had Corey Millen, arguably one of the top two players to come out of Cloquet between him and Jamie Langenbrunner. I think when Corey was let go in that situation, I think that probably they lost a little bit of traction. Northern Minnesota I'm from Northern Minnesota. I get it. You lose a guy like Corey Millen, who's one of the proverbial hockey sons in Cloquet, you probably lose a little bit of support. You probably do. And I don't know the terms and reasons why, but you win a Robertson Cup, and next thing you know, you're on the outside looking in. And again, you're part of that community. You grew up there. I think that may have had a huge impact on sponsorship, advertisers, and like you're talking about in this episode, billet families.
It's amazing. A couple of years ago, one of the NA teams, the Northeast Generals, decided they're going to have a 16 and 18 team. And they brought in Matt Dibble, the general manager, in there, and he's going to build this big program from the Rock City Coalition, I think they were called. And they had 2 houses. They put 16 kids or 17 kids in bunk beds in one of the 2 houses. It was insane. And Mass Hockey came in there and shut the whole darn thing down until they found suitable billets. You think that the USPHL, the North American Hockey League, North American 3 Hockey League, these guys would take player housing very, very seriously. And until that's done, it's going to be up to the parents to make sure that aspect of your investment is secured. My kid, I don't care if he's 15, Tommy, or 20, I want to make sure they're in a safe place at night when they go to bed. And I'm sure, your daughter, Caitlin, is a little bit more than 20 now. I'm sure you want to make sure she's in a safe place. And that's something these leagues should not take for granted. Don't piss off mom and dad because you put these kids outside in a tent. That's ridiculous. Eric?
It's interesting because my son, Michael, who's now 27, 28 this year, he played junior. He played in the Tier 1 Elite League. And that was the one thing that we made very clear that when we were talking about the teams that were recruiting him, especially while he was 15 when he played in the Tier 1 Elite League in Las Vegas for the Las Vegas Storm, former USHL owner Kirk Brooks. And the one thing that we made very clear to the coach at that time was we wanted to make sure his housing was the best for him because we wanted to have our son be very focused on the game and academics. And that came down to he lived with the coach and his wife. And that was my criteria as a parent was if we're going to send our son away at 15 years old, we wanted to make sure that he was in the best possible place to excel both in the classroom, on the ice, off the ice, and have every bit of element that he would have at home with us. That was our request, and it was facilitated. And we have no issue. We have no excuses. No issues. And Michael was my son was blessed. He had great billets, but there's a lot of bad stories out there where the billet families are that become kind of secondary. And every owner and every coach, every GM should be making sure that those are some of the first things you take care of as you move forward.
Absolutely. Final thoughts, parents. Do not pay to play until you know where your son's head is going to lay. Make sure billets are secured. You're talking to that billet family. They've been approved by Safe Sport. There's a background check. You know what you're dealing with. I think that's the most important thing that we can end for today. Eric, close it up.
More importantly, do your homework.
Oh, yeah.
As a parent, do your homework. Don't just send your child off because you're excited he's playing junior hockey. Make sure you follow the trail of what this organization has done in the past. Talk to other parents, talk to other players, talk to other coaches. Do your homework and make sure this is a very good environment for your child. Because the one thing you don't want is mid-season your child not having a great experience. Because the 4 or 5 hours that they're at the rink and with their team and training and all those things doesn't make up for the other 18 to 20 hours they're with their billet family.
Excellent, Eric. Good show today, folks. We hope that you enjoy your morning coffee.